Deep in the void between stars, Admiral Ross of the Crimson Fleet stared at his command screen with satisfaction. His invasion force of 300 warships represented the finest technology the Stellar Empire had developed over the past 1,000 years. Their mission was simple: claim the resource-rich system ahead for the Empire and crush any resistance they encountered. What the Admiral didn't expect to find was a single, ancient vessel drifting near the system's outer edge. Its hull was scarred and worn, bearing marks of battles fought long ago. According to his sensors, it was of human origin, a relic from the species that had vanished from the galaxy 5 centuries ago. Fascinating, Ross muttered, stroking his scaled chin. Scan that derelict. I want to know everything about it. The massive alien fleet approached the lone ship cautiously. Initial scans showed it was nearly 2 kilometers long, dwarfing even the Empire's largest vessels. Its design was unlike anything in their database, all sharp angles and heavy armor plating, bristling with what appeared to be weapon ports. But surely such an old vessel posed no threat to their modern warships? Admiral, we're detecting power signatures, his science officer reported. The ship, it's not dead. There appears to be an AI core still functioning. Ross leaned forward, his 4 eyes narrowing. This could be valuable salvage. Ancient human technology was rare and highly prized. Prepare boarding parties. We'll claim this relic for the Empire's engineers to study. That's when the ancient warship systems fully activated. Lights flickered to life along its hull as dormant reactors roared awake. A transmission burst across all frequencies, translated automatically by the fleet's computers. This is the Earth Defense Force Dreadnought Thunder of Earth. You are in violation of protected space. Withdraw immediately or face destruction. The Admiral laughed, joined by several bridge officers. A single ancient ship, threatening his entire fleet? Send them our terms of surrender, he ordered. I'll be generous and let them serve as part of my crew once we dash. His words were cut short as the human vessel's weapon ports opened, revealing technology that made his blood run cold. The designs were unlike anything the Empire had ever encountered, not even in theoretical weapons research. Admiral, his tactical officer shouted. They're powering up weapon systems that are, sir, the energy readings are off the charts. Ross stood from his command chair, mandibles clicking in agitation. Something about this felt wrong. Very wrong. But his pride wouldn't let him retreat from a single ship, no matter how ancient or mysterious it might be. Battle stations, he ordered. All ships, prepare to dash. The human warship fired first. What happened next would be debated in Imperial military academies for generations to come, assuming anyone survived to report it. Thunder rolled across the void, and space itself seemed to scream. The first shot from the Thunder of Earth didn't just destroy its target, it erased it. Admiral Ross watched in horror as his flagship sister ship, the Imperial Hammer, simply ceased to exist. There was no explosion, no debris field, just a brief flash of light and then, nothing. What in the eternal void was that? Ross demanded, his scaled skin paling to a sickly white. Report. His tactical officer's hands trembled over the controls. Sir, sensors indicate, it appears to be some form of matter deletion weapon. The target area is just, gone. Including all matter and even the space it occupied. Before the Admiral could process this impossible information, the ancient human warship fired again. And again. Each shot carved perfect spheres of nothingness into his fleet's formation. Ships that were merely clipped by the weapon's edge split apart like fruit cut by an invisible knife. Return fire. Ross roared. All ships, concentrate everything we have on that vessel. 300 Imperial warships responded, unleashing a storm of plasma torpedoes and energy beams that would have reduced a planet to slag. The human vessel made no attempt to evade. Instead, something extraordinary happened. The attack simply stopped existing about a kilometer from its hull. Analysis. Ross demanded. Some kind of defensive field we've never seen before, his science officer replied. It's not deflecting our attacks or absorbing them. They're just ending. Like they're being edited out of reality itself. The thunder of Earth's next transmission came through. This is your final warning. Your weapons cannot harm this vessel. Retreat now or be destroyed. You have 30 seconds to comply. Ross felt the weight of command pressing down on him. His pride screamed to continue the fight, but he had already lost 20 ships without inflicting a single scratch on the enemy. He opened his mouth to give the retreat order, but a priority transmission from Imperial Command interrupted him. Admiral Ross, the holographic figure of High Commander Vale, appeared before him. Do not retreat. That vessel represents technology that could revolutionize our empire. Capture it at any cost. This is a direct order. Ross wanted to argue, to explain what he was witnessing, but Imperial orders were absolute. Yes, High Commander. We will dash. The transmission cut off as another wave of shots from the human warship carved through his fleet. This time, the ancient vessel was targeting his command and control ship specifically. It knew exactly where to hit them. Sir, his tactical officer called out. The enemy vessel is broadcasting on all frequencies, to our crew? Through every speaker and communication device came a calm, almost gentle voice. To all Imperial personnel, your commanders have chosen to sacrifice your lives needlessly. You have witnessed that you cannot harm this vessel. You have 15 seconds to abandon your ships. Survival pods will not be targeted. This is not a deception. Choose wisely. The bridge erupted in chaos as crew members looked to their admiral for guidance. Ross stood frozen, watching more of his ships vanish into nothingness. In all his years of service, he had never faced a decision like this. Pride and duty demanded he fight to the end. Wisdom and responsibility to his crew demanded retreat. But now, as he watched the unstoppable ancient weapon continue its work, he realized he might have waited too long to make that choice. The thunder of Earth's weapons spoke again, and this time, they were aimed directly at his flagship's bridge. Time seemed to slow as Admiral Ross watched the weapon discharge heading straight for his bridge. In that moment, he made the decision that would define his legacy. All hands, abandon ship, he roared into the fleet-wide channel. This is Admiral Ross ordering an immediate evacuation of all vessels. Get to the survival pods. Now. The bridge crew hesitated for only a second before rushing to their escape stations. Ross remained at his post, quickly typing commands into his console. He had one last duty to perform, ensuring the survival of as many of his people as possible. The incoming shot suddenly veered off course, missing the bridge by mere meters. A new transmission came through. A wise choice, Admiral. You have 3 minutes to complete evacuation procedures. Ross didn't waste time questioning the mercy of the ancient vessel. Override all pod launch safety protocols, he commanded the ship's computer. Authorization, Ross Prima Override 7. Across what remained of his fleet, survival pods began launching by the hundreds. The massive human warship held its fire, its weapon port still glowing with terrible power but remaining silent as the evacuation proceeded. Through his command screen, Ross watched the pod count climbing. 500, 1,000, 2,000. But they were still far from getting everyone out. 2 minutes remaining, the human vessel announced. Engineering reports critical reactor damage from the near miss, his last remaining bridge officer reported. We're losing power to the pod launch systems. Ross slammed his fist on the console. Reroute everything, life support, weapons, shields, everything. Get those pods launched. More pods streamed out into space as power was diverted. The flagship's lights dimmed, its artificial gravity flickered, but the launches continued. 3,000, 4,000. 1 minute remaining, came the countdown. Ross looked at his tactical display. Of his original fleet of 300 ships, only 80 remained. The others had either been destroyed or successfully evacuated. But those 80 ships still held thousands of crew members. "Attention remaining vessels," he broadcast. "Divert all power to pod launches. Forget the safety protocols. Get your people out." The space around the fleet became filled with survival pods, creating a vast cloud of fleeing crew members. The Thunder of Earth maintained its position, its weapons tracking but not firing. 30 seconds. Ross checked the numbers again. They weren't going to make it. Too many were still trapped on the failing ships. He opened a channel to the human vessel. "Please," he said, swallowing his pride. "We need more time. There are still civilians aboard some of these ships, research teams, medical staff. I beg you." There was a pause that felt like eternity. Then, "Admiral Ross, your concern for your people is noted. You have an additional 2 minutes. Use them well." Relief flooded through him as he immediately relayed the news to the remaining ships. The pod launches continued with renewed urgency. As the final seconds ticked down, Ross watched the last of his crew escape. He had remained behind, coordinating the evacuation until the very end. Now, as he finally made his way to his own escape pod, he felt a strange mix of emotions: shame at his initial arrogance, gratitude for the human vessel's mercy, and burning curiosity about this technological marvel that had so thoroughly defeated them. From his pod's viewport, he watched as the Thunder of Earth's weapons powered up one final time. The remaining Imperial ships, now empty of crew, hung silently in space. What happened next would cement humanity's legend in the galaxy forever. The empty Imperial ships hung motionless against the backdrop of stars, their abandoned hulls gleaming in the light of the system's distant sun. From his survival pod, Admiral Ross watched as the Thunder of Earth began its final attack run. What happened next defied explanation. The human warship's weapon ports glowed not with the previous white energy, but with a shifting rainbow of colors that seemed to hurt the eyes. When it fired, reality itself appeared to crack. The abandoned Imperial ships didn't just disappear, they unfolded like paper sculptures being reversed through time, their materials separating into base elements before dissolving into pure energy. "By the eternal void," Ross whispered, his 4 eyes wide with wonder. The display was both beautiful and terrifying. A signal reached all the survival pods, and a holographic figure materialized before them. It appeared to be a human male in an ancient military uniform, but something about the image seemed off, too perfect, too precise. "I am Captain Thomas, or rather, the AI that carries his consciousness," the figure announced. "I have been authorized to explain what you have witnessed here today." Ross leaned forward in his cramped pod, recording everything on his emergency data core. This was history in the making. The Thunder of Earth is not merely a warship, the hologram continued. It is a guardian, one of 12 vessels created by humanity before their ascension. We were left behind to protect certain sectors of space from exploitation and invasion. The AI's form flickered as images appeared around it, scenes of human civilization at its height, achievements that made the Empire's greatest works look like a child's toys. "The weapons you witness today are powered by what your scientists might call universal constant manipulation. We don't simply destroy matter, we rewrite the local laws of physics themselves. No conventional defense can stop it because we change the rules by which reality operates in our target zone." Ross felt a chill run down his spine. The implications were staggering. But, where did humanity go, he found himself asking. The hologram smiled, but there was something sad in the expression. They evolved beyond the need for physical form. But before they left, they made sure to leave guardians behind. "There are things in this galaxy that must be protected, Admiral. Places that must remain untouched. This system is one of them." Another image appeared, a beautiful blue-green planet deeper in the system. This world contains the seeds of a new sentient species, Captain Thomas explained. Humanity remembered their own difficult evolution and decided that some young races deserve the chance to develop without interference. The AI's expression hardened. You will deliver a message to your empire. This sector is prohibited. Any further incursions will be met with the same response. We are not cruel, as you saw today, we will show mercy to those who choose wisdom over pride. But we will not fail in our mission. Around them, the debris field from the destroyed ships began to move, drawn by some invisible force toward the thunder of Earth. We leave no traces, the AI explained. Nothing of our technology will be studied or reversed engineered. That is part of our protocol. Ross watched as the ancient warship absorbed the remnants of his fleet, its hull seeming to shimmer as it processed the material. What happens to us now? He asked. Rescue ships from your empire will arrive within 6 hours, the hologram replied. You will survive to deliver our message. And perhaps. The AI smiled again, you will remember that there are still wonders in this galaxy beyond your current understanding. The hologram flickered one final time. Oh, and Admiral? The next Guardian vessel you encounter might not be as patient as I am. Remember that. As the transmission ended, the thunder of Earth began to move, its massive form accelerating with impossible grace. Within seconds, it had vanished, leaving behind only questions and a legend that would change the Empire forever. The Imperial Rescue Fleet arrived exactly when the AI had predicted, 6 hours after the thunder of Earth's departure. Admiral Ross watched through his pod's viewport as the massive rescue ships began collecting the scattered survival pods, their tractor beams gently guiding the survivors to safety. But something had changed in those 6 hours. The radio chatter between pods had spread the truth of what happened, and Ross could already see its effect on his people. They had witnessed something that shattered their understanding of the universe. As Ross's pod was brought aboard the rescue ship Eternal Dawn, he was immediately met by Imperial intelligence officers. Their scales were darker than standard military personnel, marking them as elite investigators. Admiral Ross, the lead officer said, her voice crisp. I am Agent Mira. You will come with us immediately. High Command is waiting for your report. Ross straightened his uniform, still bearing the marks of his hasty escape. Of course. But first, I want updates on my crew's survival numbers. That can wait, Mira started, but Ross cut her off. No, it cannot. His voice carried the weight of his experience. I just watched technology beyond our comprehension reshape reality itself. But I also watched that same power show mercy. We're going to do this properly. Something in his tone made the intelligence officers step back. Perhaps they sensed the change in him, the man who had faced extinction and learned from it. The casualty reports came in as they walked to the secure communication chamber. Out of his entire fleet, 98% of the personnel had survived. It was an evacuation rate that should have been impossible in the time given. Ross suspected the human AI had helped somehow, though he couldn't prove it. In the communication chamber, the holographic figures of the Imperial High Command materialized, 12 of the most powerful beings in the Empire. Their collective gaze bore down on Ross with terrible intensity. Explain, High Commander Vale demanded without preamble. Ross straightened his back and began his report. He told them everything, the initial encounter, the impossible weapons, the AI's warning, and the truth about humanity's ascension. As he spoke, he could see the disbelief on their faces turn to concern, then to fear. This is unacceptable, one of the commanders interrupted. If word of this spreads, it could destabilize the entire empire. The common people aren't ready to know that such powers exist. With respect, Ross replied, his voice firm, they already know. My entire surviving crew witnessed it. And they're already talking. Then we'll silence them, another commander suggested. Memory wipes, reassignment to distant posts. No. Ross's single word cut through the chamber like a blade. That's exactly the kind of thinking that led to this disaster. We must learn from this encounter. He stepped forward, activating his personal data core. The images he'd recorded began playing in the chamber, the reality-bending weapons, the AI's message, the demonstration of power and mercy. Look at what we witnessed, Ross continued. An ancient human warship could have destroyed us utterly. Instead, it showed restraint. It protected life while completing its mission. There are lessons here that could transform our empire. You forget yourself, Admiral, Vale warned. You're suggesting we completely change our expansion policies based on one encounter. I'm suggesting we evolve, Ross countered. Just as humanity did. We face a choice now: continue our blind expansion until we encounter something even less merciful than the thunder of Earth, or learn to be better. The chamber fell silent as his words hung in the air. The recordings continued to play, showing the impossible physics of the human weapons. Finally, one of the younger commanders spoke up. Perhaps the Admiral has a point. The galaxy is clearly not what we thought it was. 1 month after the encounter with the thunder of Earth, Admiral Ross stood before the Imperial Senate. The vast chamber, filled with representatives from 1,000 worlds, had fallen silent as they watched his presentation. The recordings from that fateful day played above them: reality-bending weapons, impossible technology, and most importantly, mercy in the face of aggression. The choice before us is clear, Ross declared, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. We can ignore this warning and continue until we meet another Guardian vessel, or we can learn from this encounter and become something greater. Murmurs filled the chamber. An elder senator rose, his scales dulled with age. You're asking us to completely reshape our society based on one encounter. The Empire has expanded through strength for 10,000 years. Why should we change now? Ross activated another recording, the AI Captain Thomas's warning about other Guardian vessels. Because we now know we're not alone in our advancement. There are powers in this galaxy far beyond our understanding. Humanity didn't just leave behind warships, they left behind lessons. He gestured to a group of Imperial scientists who had spent the past month studying the sensor data from the encounter. Their leader, Professor Vix, stepped forward. The energy readings we detected from the thunder of Earth suggest levels of technological advancement at least 5,000 years beyond our current capabilities, she announced. But what's more interesting is the precision of their mercy. They could have destroyed our fleet in seconds. Instead, they gave time for evacuation, protected our escape pods, and even helped coordinate the rescue effort. The chamber erupted in discussion. Ross watched as the senators debated among themselves. He knew this was the crucial moment. The Empire stood at a crossroads. A younger senator raised his hand for silence. What exactly are you proposing, Admiral? Ross took a deep breath. I propose the creation of the Imperial Exploration and Conservation Initiative. Instead of conquering systems, we study them. Instead of exploiting resources, we learn to use what we have more efficiently. The humans reached a level of advancement where they could reshape reality itself, and then they chose to become something even greater. He played one final recording, the image of the beautiful blue-green planet the thunder of Earth had been protecting. Somewhere on that world, a new species is taking its first steps toward consciousness. The humans believed they deserved the chance to develop naturally. Perhaps they remembered their own history, their own struggles. They became powerful enough to dominate the galaxy, but instead chose to protect and nurture. The chamber had grown quiet again. Ross could see his words having an effect, especially on the younger senators. But then High Commander Vale stepped forward. This is dangerous thinking, Vale declared. If we show weakness now, our enemies will take advantage. We must respond with force, find these guardian vessels, and dash. And what? Ross interrupted. Face more ships like the Thunder of Earth? Watch more of our fleets be unmade by technology we can't even comprehend? No. We must be smarter than that. He turned to address the entire chamber. The humans didn't just show us our technological limitations, they showed us a better path. They proved that true power isn't about destruction. It's about having the strength to show mercy, the wisdom to protect rather than exploit. The debate raged for hours, but Ross could see the tide turning. More and more senators were beginning to understand. The Empire had always prided itself on strength, but perhaps it was time for a different kind of strength. As the session drew to a close, Ross received an unexpected message on his personal communicator. The source was untraceable, but the words made his scales tingle. Watching with interest. Proceed. 5 years after the encounter with the Thunder of Earth, the Imperial Exploration Fleet approached a distant star system. At its head was the newly designed research vessel Star Seeker, and on its bridge stood Grand Admiral Ross, his scales now bearing the golden stripes of his elevated rank. Scanning the system now, his science officer reported. Life signs detected on the third planet. Early industrial civilization, similar to what humans achieved 2,000 years ago. Ross nodded, remembering a similar scan from 5 years ago that had led to such different intentions. Begin observation protocols. No contact, no interference. Mark this system as protected under the new Path Accords. The Imperial Exploration Fleet had replaced the old conquest fleets. Their ships now carried scientists instead of warriors, observers instead of conquerors. The Empire had changed dramatically in 5 years, though not without resistance. There had been attempts to maintain the old ways, even a brief civil war, but the truth about the Thunder of Earth had spread too far to be contained. Sir, his communications officer called out. We're detecting an energy signature. It's familiar. Ross felt his heart skip a beat as the readings appeared on his screen. Full stop, he ordered. All ships, maintain position. From the darkness of space, a massive form shimmered into view. The Thunder of Earth hung before them, its ancient hull still as impressive as the day it had changed their civilization forever. But this time, Ross felt no fear. The hologram of Captain Thomas appeared on the bridge, exactly as it had 5 years ago. Admiral Ross, the AI said with a slight smile. Or should I say, Grand Admiral now. We've been watching your progress with great interest. Captain, Ross acknowledged. We come in peace, to observe and protect, not to conquer. We know. The AI's form flickered as it gestured to the planet below. This species will achieve spaceflight in approximately 300 years. When they do, they will find themselves in a galaxy very different from the one we once knew. Thanks in part to you. Ross looked at his crew, a mix of species now, not just Imperial citizens. The Empire's changes had attracted allies, races that had once feared them now seeking partnership in exploration and discovery. We had good teachers, Ross replied. Though I admit, some days I wonder if that encounter was truly a coincidence. The AI's smile widened slightly. The universe holds many mysteries, Admiral. Humanity didn't just ascend, they learned to be patient. To guide without controlling. To protect while allowing growth. New readings appeared on Ross's screens, data about the Thunder of Earth freely given this time, not taken by force. Consider this a graduation gift, Captain Thomas said. Not weapons technology, but knowledge about sustainable energy, efficient resource management, and peaceful development. Use it wisely. Thank you, Ross said, understanding the trust being shown. Will we see you again? We are always watching, Admiral. Humanity may have ascended, but they never abandoned their role as guardians. And now, it seems, we have new allies in that mission. The hologram began to fade, but not before offering one final message. Remember, the true measure of civilization isn't in its capacity for destruction, but in its willingness to protect and nurture. You've taken the first steps on a very long journey. We look forward to seeing where it leads. As the thunder of Earth disappeared once more into the depths of space, Ross turned to his crew. Their eyes were filled with wonder and purpose. The Empire had been founded on the principle of strength through conquest, but it had found a greater strength, the power to choose wisdom over force, protection over exploitation. Log this encounter, Ross ordered. And add a personal note: today marks not an end, but a beginning. Humanity's legacy lives on, not in their weapons or their power, but in the lesson they left behind. The galaxy isn't a resource to be conquered, it's a garden to be tended, a miracle to be protected. As the Star Seeker resumed its mission of peaceful exploration, Ross knew that somewhere out there, ancient guardians were watching, waiting, and perhaps, hoping. Humanity's greatest achievement wasn't their mastery over reality itself, it was showing others the way to become something greater than themselves.